Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. In this particular video, we're going to be talking about the debt avalanche method of getting out of debt. Now, I usually use 6 or so different strategies with my clients when I meet with them, or I at least go through 6 different strategies. Of course, last week we talked about the debt snowball. You can find that here, pros and cons of the debt snowball. And this video, we're going to talk about the debt avalanche. The debt avalanche is mathematically the most efficient way to actually pay off your debts and can save you thousands of dollars in interest. So make sure you watch to the end where I share with you exactly how it works. First of all, let's get into what is the debt avalanche method. The debt avalanche method is where you list all of your debts, you find out who you owe money to, how much you owe them, what interest rate you're paying them, and of course you want to find out the minimum payment as well, just to make sure that you have all the data in front of you. What you do is then you sort your debts by the highest interest rate. After you've gone through your budget and you've freed up some cash flow and you make sure that you have some good cash flow to be able to tackle these debts, you want to then take all the minimum payments that you were paying on your other debts and continue to do that, and then take every extra dollar that you have and put it towards that higher interest rate debt. Once you do that, take that money and then move it to the next highest interest rate debt, and then the next highest interest rate debt, until all of your debts are paid off one by one, starting with the debts with the highest interest rates. By doing that, we're going to get into the pros and cons and why it's more efficient and effective than the debt snowball to do it with the debt avalanche. Before I do that though, I want to remind you about my free ebook. If you need to know how to really dial in your cash flow, your income, your expenses, making sure that you're aware of every dollar, where it goes, and freeing up hundreds of dollars in cash flow, you're going to want to click the link in the description below to download my free ebook and save yourselves $300, $400, I've had clients save up to $700 or $800 a month just by going through that program. Every dollar you save there can now be used towards getting out of debt and helping you get out of debt faster. And as you'll see in the pros and cons section of this video, the more money you have to use towards getting out of debt, the better you're going to be. All right, so let's talk about the pros and cons of the debt avalanche method. These are a little different than the pros and cons of the debt snowball method. This particular method saves you the most money on interest. By paying off the debt with the highest interest rate first, what that's going to do is going to save you tons of money on interest. As that interest continues to compound and pile up, it's going to wipe that out way faster by using this method. And this mathematically is the most efficient method. The second pro to this is that you have a faster payoff of the higher interest rates. Now, I don't know about you, but some of these credit cards are charging, I think, highway robbery interest rates. And it's important for you to be able to pay these down super fast, super quickly, so that you get out from underneath that high interest that's really just eating away and chipping away at your wealth. The third pro for this particular strategy is that it's mathematically the most efficient. It saves you the most money on your interest. If you're compounding at 20 or 30% interest and you're paying that off faster, the amount of total debt you're going to pay over the whole period of time is going to be thousands of dollars less. So this is the most mathematically efficient way to actually do debt payoff. Because you've paid less in interest, you're going to have a lot more money now available to you when you actually start building wealth to really put towards your financial goals and dreams and start savings and start building up that savings account and start moving towards your financial freedom with investments and other things. So while we're here and talking about savings, one of the first things I want you to realize, of course, we talked about all the pros of using this strategy. One thing I want you to do before you start a strategy of getting out of debt is you have to get your budget good. I mentioned my ebook earlier. The second thing you want to do is you want to start to build a savings account, a cushion of savings, so that if an emergency happens, you lose your job, your car goes kaputs, whatever, you have enough money that you can take care of it and not go back into debt. I literally just heard a story of a lady who was getting out of debt. I think she was actually doing the avalanche method because she was an accountant and really into the numbers. And so she realized that she was going to get out of debt at a certain time. She was on pace. She was totally excited. And then she got laid off from her job. And she literally says in her story, she says, because I didn't realize or didn't plan for that, I didn't have any money in savings, and now I'm back into debt. So please make sure that you're building up your savings before you start tackling any kind of debt strategies and moving towards becoming debt free. You want to have that savings, that cushion, just in case anything happens. All right, now, what I shared earlier is that this is the most mathematically correct way to do it. However, as I've said many times, that money has a lot more to do with emotions, beliefs, and behaviors than it does with math. There's no more truer way to explain that by sharing with you some of the cons of the avalanche method, because if you were all about the math, you wouldn't be in debt in the first place, first of all. But if you were all about the math, this, of course, is the best, most efficient way to do it. but we're emotional beings. We're human beings. We have emotions, we have behaviors, we have thoughts, we have desires, we have all these things. We need motivation sometimes. Discipline is kind of a hard thing to keep. And so some of the cons we're going to talk about now are going to really kind of give you an idea whether or not you should use this method or start with the snowball method and then transition to this method. So the first con is it requires a lot of patience. That can be a problem for a lot of people who need those emotional wins, which is part of the reason why the second con is that it feels so slow. It requires so much patience. It feels so slow because your debt that's the highest interest rate might be one of the largest balances that you have. And because you have to pay down such a large balance, which is actually compounding at such a high interest rate, it may take you longer to pay it off unless you have a lot of cash flow to really put on it, on that debt. It's going to take you a lot longer. So it's going to feel super slow, like it's going to taking you forever to pay off your debts. And sometimes we need to have those things. And that's where the third con is the psychological boost. With the snowball method, you pay off a debt, you feel great. It's kind of a euphoric feeling that you have. You know you can do it. You're like, I did it, I paid off a debt. If you have 8 or 9, especially if you have like 8 or 9 or 10 credit cards, and you want to pay one of those off super fast or pay 3 or 4 of them off really quickly, it helps you feel good. Well, with the Avalanche method, you may not be doing that. The highest interest rate may be one of the bigger balances. That's why I recommend, in the snowball method, pay off a few at the beginning, and the Avalanche is where you pay off the highest interest rates. So the fourth con of the debt Avalanche method is that it requires a lot of discipline. And quite frankly, probably the reason why you're in debt in the first place is because you had some struggles with discipline. So if you're already struggling with discipline and this particular strategy requires even more discipline, it may not be the most effective strategy for you to have. What I highly recommend is you first watch the video that I did on the debt snowball method, because if you have 8 or 9 or 10 debts and there's a bunch of them that are at different amounts and several of them are relatively small, I would start with the debt snowball method, pay those off quickly, get that good feeling like you did it. And then when you start to get to the credit cards where the balances are all about the same, that's where you switch over to the Avalanche method and you start paying off the ones with the highest interest rate. If you have 3 or 4 credit cards that are right around $5,000, you want to pay off the one with the highest interest rate first because they're all about the same balance. Does that make sense? So make sure that you're using the debt snowball in the beginning, pay off those quick, easy ones really fast, get those quick wins, and then switch to the debt Avalanche method and pay the ones off with the highest interest rate so that you're getting out from underneath all that interest that you're paying and saving yourself a ton of money. Again, if you missed the video that I did last week about the debt snowball method, go ahead and find that here. Subscribe to the channel up here and check out this video up here that YouTube thinks you might like. Until the next video, make sure that you're doing all you can to build towards your massive bank account.